welcome to Mediocre Parenting Tips for the Pandemic with me, your host, Kara. Now, as you can see, I have makeup on and I flat ironed my hair. And that brings us to my first mediocre parenting tip. If you're working too much to homeschool or feed your child, you can give them activities to do on their own. In my case, I got Avery this junior makeup kit. You see it unfolds. She can do all her own makeup and it smells like that cheap makeup you used to shoplift from the CVS when you were in high school. It smells like, what is that smell? It's like cheap suntan lotion or something. It smells just like that. Also, I unearthed a box of things I used to have when I used to go on dates and I did my hair, like a flat iron and a crimping iron and various size curling irons. Literally did not know I had them, but it turns out that I do. And I let Avery play with them while I do conference calls. And that's mediocre parenting tip number 1. Mediocre parenting tip number 2, I lost my prop. Where's my prop? Avery's eating my prop for mediocre parenting tip number 2, which is this. If you're too stressed out and busy to feed your child, go back to the foods of your childhood. Here's our healthy breakfast, Cookie Crisp. You may remember it from the days when people didn't care about things like sugar. And for lunch, we've been having a steady diet of Chef Boyardee, both the beef ravioli for the protein and the ABC's 1, 2, 3s with meatballs for the learning and the protein. It says it's fortified with essential vitamins and nutrients, and now I'm so old that I can't read any print that's smaller than that, so who the hell knows what is in this thing? Not me, but Avery does, because this is what she has for lunch every day. That's pandemic parenting tip number 2. I don't want to run out of all the good ones that I have, so I'm going to do this number 3. And for the purpose of number 3, I want you to pretend that I'm here in this house by myself and that all vulnerable small children are far away where they can't hear me, even though you and I both know that that's not true. So today I had to give Avery some very, very, very disappointing news in the string of what I can only assure you has been day after day after day of disappointing news. Because if there is one thing a super extroverted 10-year-old doesn't want, it's to spend 10 days and counting with no end in sight in a small house with her mother while she's asked to be quiet so her mother can work and
screams and walks around the house.
and so poor Avery, although she's been really, really, really good about it, has been a little bit stressed out. And every day I have to tell her something worse, like one day her passport came in the mail and I had to be like, bad news, we canceled our trip to Paris, which is a very first world problem, but still a problem. I had to tell her that school was out for a couple weeks. And then when all the other schools started canceling through the end of the year, I had to tell her that she should probably get ready to be canceled through the end of the year too. We can't do play dates, blah, blah, blah. You know all the stuff we can't do. I had to tell her another one today, and it was sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back. She was really, really upset. And I was too. And she was mad at me because I'm the bearer of bad news and the decision maker. And I can take it because I'm her mom. So we went upstairs into my bedroom, which is the only part of the house we don't already spend all day in, so it feels fresh and new. And I was like, listen, why don't you just yell as loud as you can? And she was like, no. And I was like, why don't you just say the F word? That'll make you feel better. And is such a good child that she was like, no. And I was like, no, seriously, you can say it. I'm not going to be upset. You can totally say it. Go ahead and say it. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, you won't get in trouble. And she was like, no. And I said, I'll tell you what. And I was in my most therapy mom way, because I alternate between being very neglectful mom and therapy mom. That's my pandemic parenting personality. Ding. Oh, there's a new catchphrase we can use for this series. You have to think of what yours is and tell me in the comments. Anyway, my pandemic parenting personality, this one, is therapeutic. So I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll do it first. I'll show you how it goes. And here I want to be really clear. Pay attention to what I'm about to say. Turn the volume down on this thing that you're watching on, because I'm about to get really loud and I'm going to say bad words. Okay, did you turn it down? Down? Okay. I was like, just yell at the top of your lungs. And here I'm about to yell, so don't be frightened when I do it, okay? Fuck you, coronavirus! And she was like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, oh, actually, having done it, I'm pretty sure you do. I said, how about this? Just take my hand and you think about whatever you're angry about and I'll yell about it. And she was like, okay. So I took her little hand. She has such sweet little hands. And I said, once again, please adjust your volume here. I said, fuck you, coronavirus. I want to go on spring break. And she liked that. And then I said, fuck you, coronavirus! I want to go to the movies! And she liked that. And now you can turn the volume back up. I'm going to stop demonstrating. But I just want to tell you, after days of being trapped in the house and worrying about how much canned food we have and just canceling all the things I want to do in the world for the next few months, really screaming bad words at the top of my lungs was very therapeutic. And we went from both of us being very tense and on the verge of tears and maybe shedding a few tears onto our freshly made up faces to both laughing pretty hard because there's something quite ridiculous about sitting on your bed, which, full disclosure, is covered in unfolded laundry, which is something that I had under control before the pandemic. I don't know why being home all the time has made it harder for me to fold all my laundry, but there you have it. Anyway, we went from being very upset to being pretty amused and laughing kind of hysterically. And I, frankly, although it did make me cough, and as you know, every time you cough, you think you're like 5 minutes from an ambulance ride to the ER and dying on a gurney in the hallway, which that part wasn't good. But the rest of it, the yelling at the top of my lungs and the bad words, was great. So I highly recommend it. And that is my pandemic parenting tip for you today. Number 1, lower your expectations. Homeschool, foam school. Laura Ingalls Wilder was lucky she ever went to school at all. And look at her, she's famous and still my idol. In fact, I pickled carrots the other day and I sent a picture to my family group chat and I said, look at me, I'm Caroline fucking Ingalls. And I stand by that. Pandemic parenting tip number 2. Lower your expectations around nutrition too. Cookie Crisp, Chef Boyardee. Not only are these things easy for a child to prepare for herself, also shelf stable for a very long time. And finally, pandemic parenting tip number 3. Define and access your pandemic parenting personality. And maybe you have different ones for different circumstances. You can lean into them when you need it. For me, therapeutic parenting and the primal yell, the primal scream that we did today was fantastic. Fantastic enough that I then let Avery flat iron my hair, put my mascara on, and my lipstick. I did my own eyeliner though because, I still know how to do that best. Anyway, please let me know in the comments anything else you'd like to know about parenting tips, mediocre parenting tips for you during this very, very challenging time. And until we meet again, wash your hands, make sure you rinse out your wine glass tonight, and stay healthy, y'all.